The backlash has been growing over anti-Semitism within the Women's March, and now it's reached kind of a pretty serious moment. This story from the Daily Wire: Women's March loses Human Rights Award due to rampant anti-Semitism. A couple days ago, I made a video about Alyssa Milano. She called out the Women's March, Linda Sarsour, and some other women with the Women's March, saying that she wouldn't be speaking there unless they disavowed Farrakhan and anti-Semitism. And there was some back and forth. Glenn Greenwald said Alyssa Milano was basically racist, kind of implied it, because it was a white woman calling out women of color over their beliefs. But Louis Farrakhan is an anti-Semite who says very horrible things. He shouldn't be, you don't get a free pass. That's not how it works. Now, because of this rising controversy, they're losing an award. So let's read this story from the Daily Wire. Since the Women's March, is by Ash Shao. Since the Women's March was founded in 2017, before President Donald Trump had actually done anything, praise had been heaped upon it merely for existing and being made up of women. But now that the anti-Semitic beliefs of some of the group's founders are finally starting to get recognition, some of those who formerly praised the organization are now pulling back. The Friedrich Ebert Foundation, FES, because in German it's known as the Friedrich Ebert Stiftung, a German think tank for its Social Democratic Party, was slated to award the Women's March with its Human Rights Award on November 12th, but has now withdrawn the group's nomination, according to the Jerusalem Post. Members from one of FES's working groups, Critique of the Antisemitism and Jewish Studies, penned a public letter denouncing the Women's March anti-Semitism and support of the boycott, divestment, and sanctions campaign against Israel. We believe that the Women's March USA does not meet the criteria of this award, and its organizers have repeatedly attracted attention through anti-Semitic statements, the trivialization of anti-Semitism, and the exclusion of Zionists and Jews since Women's March USA's establishment in 2017. Women's March USA does not constitute an inclusive alliance, the members wrote. It's not just the Women's March. There are Democratic candidates. I've got another story, actually. I'll show you that. I might pull it up. But the headline's basically, here's the anti-Semitism the media doesn't want to mention. Basically, we'll stick on this for now. I'll come to this later. You've got people on the left, activists and in the Democratic Party who have said anti-Semitic things in the past. And here's my assumption. Listen, there are probably people who have, done a low fly pass over some racist statements. It makes you wonder about what they really believe on the left and the right. And there are some statements we've seen from the left where you kind of wonder if they're just trying to keep a public persona on what they actually believe, meaning they actually are very anti-Semitic, but just don't want to say it publicly because it can get them in trouble. Yet some of these people are at Louis Farrakhan's events where he, for years, has said ridiculously anti-Semitic things. If you're going to go to this event and clap and cheer and root for this man and support him, I have to wonder about what you really believe, even if you claim to not be an anti-Semite. I'm not going to believe you, okay? It's one thing to go to a rally where the core principle is something like free speech, and it just so happens that some racist people show up. I think you should absolutely denounce those people. It's another thing when you go to an event headlined by the man who says the racist things, and you do it and you cheer for him and you do it all the time, right? The scholars and alumni of FES call in the organization, one, to distance themselves from Women's March USA and to revoke the award immediately. Wow. To adopt the anti-Semitism definition of the International Holocaust Remembrance Alliance. To check future projects, award recipients, and any activities concerning anti-Semitism, with the help of experts in this field, and to oppose any form of anti-Semitism both within the FES and externally. The anti-Semitism definition from the IHRA states that it is a certain perception of Jews which may be expressed as hatred towards Jews. Rhetorical and physical manifestations of anti-Semitism are directed toward Jewish or non-Jewish individuals and or their property, toward Jewish community institutions and religious facilities. This can be expressed through language, writing, images, and actions, as well as Israel-related hostility. The members then lay out some examples of anti-Semitism from Women's March board member Linda Sarsour, who said feminists could not also be Zionists and that Zionists were Nazis. Oh my God. Sarsour also supports the BDS movement and has called Israel an apartheid state. Sarsour, along with Carmen Perez and Tamika D. Mallory, have also supported anti-Semite Louis Farrakhan, who has compared Jews to termites. Not okay in any capacity. And this is where I want to stop and say, Deborah Messing, who I've got this story, I believe, Deborah Messing joins Alyssa Milano, condemns anti-Semitic Women's March leaders. Amazing. Absolutely amazing. My respect. You know, the other day we saw an op-ed from Sally Cohn. She's a progressive, she's a lefty, calling out Antifa. Fantastic. You have my respect. Deborah Messing, Alyssa Milano condemned the protest, or whatever you want to call it, at Tucker Carlson's house, and she condemned the Women's March. Linda Sarsour and Tamika, what's her name? I don't know all their names. I don't really follow. Tamika Mallory, that's what I thought her name was, for their support of Farrakhan or their, attending his events. Now, they're trying to walk this back, but I think it's about damn time that the left started cleaning house. People ask me, why don't I rag on the right? It's because I'm not in the right's room. I'm not there. I am in the room with these people. I am at the events with these people. I have been at these events for most of the protests I've been throughout my life for a couple decades, or 15 years maybe I've been protesting. And I have seen these people, and I've had criticisms for them. You can't claim to be fighting for truth and justice and all that good stuff if you won't condemn your own when they do things like this. So I think it's fantastic to see that we've got Alyssa Milano, Deborah Messing, that the award is being rescinded from them because they think that they can have it all. They think that they can, condemn the right and make these statements about Trump while still harboring racism and anti-Semitism within their own ranks, as if they're somehow immune or it's okay when they do it. The FES members say that the Women's March is not inclusive as it excludes Jews. Just as important the struggle for feminism still is, so is the fight against other forms of discrimination, as well as to work inclusively and to not exclude Jews, the members wrote. An organization that may support feminism but discriminates against Jews and Zionists and denies Israel's right to exist should not be honored by a democratic foundation that advocates diversity and speaks out against discrimination, the group concluded. If one tries to bring up the website for the organization's 2018 Human Rights Award, they are met with a 404 page not found error. The Jerusalem Post also reports that FES is investigating the allegations of anti-Semitism against the Women's March. So it's really interesting to see that Women's March loses Human Rights Award due to anti-Semitism. The Women's March has issued a statement, and they said, Women's March wouldn't exist without the leadership of women of color, and we stand with Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory. Women's March leaders reject anti-Semitism in all its forms, yet participate in it. This is what really bothers me about the left. The claims that they are the anti-racists, yet they harbor racism. They harbor racists. They harbor the anti-Semites and claim they oppose it. Please, absolutely not. They say, we recognize the danger of hate rhetoric by public figures. We want to say emphatically that we do not support or endorse statements made by Minister Louis Farrakhan about women, Jewish, and LGBTQ communities. No, you just attend his events and clap and cheer for him. Support him. It's important to remember that many on the right are thrilled to use any tool. And here we go. I'm not even going to read this. Now all of a sudden they're playing it off. Oh, don't look at us. You're giving ammo to the right. That's your defense. The defense of the mistakes. The defense of people calling you out for anti-Semitism is to blame the right. Oh, the right's going to use this. They say, our women of color leaders at the Women's March have risked their safety to build a bold, direct action strategy that addresses the real threat against our communities and country. The threat of white nationalism, which is fueled by anti-black racism and anti-Semitism. Right. A lot of the racism that you actually support. We all know the real cause of violence and oppression of our communities. This is well documented, inspired by vile rhetoric coming from the Trump administration and from members of the Republican Party. And you know what? Disappointing. You could have been real simple and said, you know what? The anti-Semites, we're calling them out. Plain and simple. They don't want to do that. Linda Sarsour and Tamika Mallory are being called out across the board. They're going to stand with them. Sure. Great. It's a hypocritical organization. Plain and simple. But I'll end with this. There have been, we have the story from the New York Post. They say, the 2018 midterm will bring many new faces to Washington, but few will find as much adoration as Ilhan Omar, one of the first two Muslim women elected to Congress. Omar, who will represent Minnesota's 5th congressional district, is a Somali refugee with a celebrity aura and an uplifting story. What went curiously unmentioned in all the flattering post-election coverage, however, was that Omar, who replaces Keith Ellison, a former acolyte of anti-Semitic minister Louis Farrakhan, also has some exotic notions about the Jewish people. In a 2012 tweet, for instance, the Democrat explained that Israel has hypnotized the world. May Allah awaken the people and help them see the evil doings of Israel. Meanwhile, the other Muslim woman headed to Congress is Michigan Democrat Rashida Tlaib, the daughter of Palestinian immigrants, who wants to cut aid to the Jewish state because supporting it doesn't fit the values of our country. So this article basically goes into, they're saying, No one at the Anti-Defamation League, ostensibly tasked with stopping anti-Jewish libel, but in reality busy hyperventilating over every far-flung right-wing bigot with a handful of supporters, paid her any attention. This is what bothers me about the left. The people on the right, the moderates, the regular Republicans, will call out the far right, the ultranationalists, they'll call it the white identitarians. The left doesn't. The left very rarely cleans house of the bigots, of the anti-Semitism, and then this happens. They lose a Human Rights Award, the Women's March, because of anti-Semitism. And then they claim, oh, it's fuel for the right. Well, yeah, the right's going to call you out because of it, because you're supporting racism. Just like the left calls out the right when you have people like, what's his name, Steve King, the right's going to call out the left for the same thing. Good, both sides should police each other, but more importantly, both sides should police themselves. I have seen people on the right condemn, white nationalism and racism, and some don't, but many do. These people, Linda Sarsour, high profile. It's about damn time we see Alyssa Milano, Deborah Messing, and other people high profile call them out, and it's time to clean house. Plain and simple, I think it's fair to say when your organization loses a Human Rights Award because of your rampant anti-Semitism, you've got some problems. And I hope the rest of the people on the left can see this for what it really is and say, listen, when you address the problems within your group, you make your group stronger, plain and simple. Anyway, stick around. I got a couple more videos coming up in just a few minutes here on this channel.